Yo, YouTube, what is up? So today I am going to be starting a series of basically every single attempt that I made at Black Mage before I actually clear the boss, and up to and including the run where I finally clear as well. Because I noticed that a lot of people share their Black Mage runs, but it's usually the ones in which they're actually successful, right? It's usually the ones where they get their first clear, or it's sequentially every clear up to when they finally liberate. But what I wanted to share was the process by which I actually got to my first clear, because I feel like most people don't want to share that, just given the fact that Black Mage is a really hard boss at first, and if you're not used to the mechanics and whatnot, you're probably going to just do really poorly for a number of runs before you actually get to that point of mastery. So maybe people don't really want to share, but I don't really give a shit about that. You guys can totally see me fail. I don't mind. But you know, this video right here is my first ever attempt at Black Mage. To give a little bit of context, my party had, I'm gonna pause the video for a sec. My party had already started running, and I was a late addition into the party because the sixth member basically had other plans. And so because they were more experienced than I was, and I actually had more keys left than they did, it was recommended that I go and get some experience so that I can kind of catch up in terms of experience with the boss. And that way, you know, I had keys to spare. Whereas if they were a little bit more short on keys, then they weren't wasting runs teaching me how to actually do the boss. So this was a for fun run where, you know, people kind of just do it, but without the intention of actually clearing the boss. And they'll take along, you know, people who they typically don't run with, or maybe someone new like me in this case, just so that other people can get some experience as well. And so once again, thank you to these people for doing it, because it was my first taste of Black Mage, and it got me started with the entire process. Now, to set some additional context, if you notice a little bit before in the video, I was actually going to End of the World 1-1. Because I literally didn't even know that that's where you got your Black Mage key. Like, I had the sparks, I had the, you know, the Vihila cores that you exchange for them, but I didn't even realize that this is the lady that you talk to exchange for the Black Mage key. So right off the bat, I'm already kind of panicking because all of them know what they're doing, and I'm like trying to figure out where to go to get this key. I don't want to like waste their time, make them wait for me. It's bad, right? And so very quickly you'll see that this lack of preparation on my part really manifests into a cascade of problems as I actually go to the boss, because oh yeah, so here I am going to Moonbridge to the storage person to actually get my sparks out of the storage. Rule number one, make sure you have a key before you actually attempt the Black Mage run, and make sure you prepare that ahead of time. So here I am, I go and I finally actually get my key. There it is. I got my key, and then I go to the altar, right? So I join the party, they're all waiting for me. At this point, they've already started buffing up, and I'm just like I don't know what I'm doing. I'm like just kind of panicking, and it's my first time running. And so I try really quickly to make sure I'm running, you know, the correct familiars. I'm running healing fams here because I'm trying to get as much experience as possible, as opposed to like actually focusing on DPS and whatnot. I check my V matrix, but I remove Holy Symbol and I put on Will Skill. But what's funny though is that I don't have auto recovery, and it's recommended that you run the special node auto recovery too. And I just like didn't think to actually craft it, and so I went into the boss without it. That's mistake number two. So as you can see now, they're popping the atmospheric buffs, and I'm still like trying to figure out what am I missing. I don't even think at this point I recognize the fact that I hadn't crafted auto recovery too. So it's pretty bad. And then you'll also notice that so yeah, there I'm checking my V matrix again. I just am lost. And yeah, let's see what else I messed up. It's been a while since this happened. Oh yep, so I keybind my will skill, but you'll notice that there are some conspicuously useless skills or buffs that are currently keybound into my quick slots. Most importantly, right here, number 5, that's usually where I have my roar. Number 4, that's usually where I have my angelic buster. Link skill, terms and conditions. F6, that's usually is that F6 or F5? That's F6. That's usually impenetrable skin. F5 is usually grandest goddess blessing. And so I'm like not with the program right now. So I do remember ring activation. See, I placed that on 5. Good on me. I check my options and I check my sound. I turn on the sound because I like playing with sound when there's a boss fight. However, I forgot to check my graphics, which you'll soon realize is a problem. So here I am. I'm like still trying to figure out, am I missing anything? Like what? And because I'm just like trying to rush through everything, I didn't really have like a set, like, oh, there I go. I actually remembered to put on AB Link. Okay, I remember that, but I don't remember Grandest Goddess Blessing, which is my biggest burst buff. Kind of a problem on my part. So we're gonna continue. So at this point, you know, super quick. I pop my G skills. I think I'm ready. I'm totally not. And very quickly, I will notice a lot more problems that I didn't notice before going into the boss. But let's go. Black Mage phase 1, first ever attempt. So I was told jump to the right. So I'm just, you know, spamming jump at this point. I summon my familiar and I start buffing up, but then I realize I don't have Grandest Goddess Blessing. Oh, that's great. I'm taking way too long to buff up at this point. I also noticed that at this point that I did not turn down my opacity. And so all of the skills are very, very prominent on my screen. So I do that feather float right there. Dodging whites is kind of free on Adele if you have your feather float. So nothing too bad so far, but you know, that burst was, wait, let me see how much damage I did. Yeah, I did 3.7 T, which is kind of pathetic. I mean, yes, the rest of the party is stronger than I am, but like that's really pathetic. And I mean, it's because I didn't pop my roar. I popped all of my burst stuff late. I didn't have my Grandest Goddess Blessing. Like it was all bad. So here I am, finally in P2. I just jumped to the corner because I'm like, I don't know what's going on. I'm in darkness, freaking out still. I'm still like, when am I gonna find some time to actually, you know, adjust my opacity settings and bind some of my buffs. So here I am. Oh yeah. So this is the moment where I realized that I never popped monster park potions. I didn't pop green pot or red pot. And so, you know, red pot, okay, fine, like I lose a little bit of weapon attack, but without green pot, I mean, I'm attacking much slower, which is less DPS, but more importantly, that means I'm going to be locked into my animations longer and I won't be able to dodge as well. So I got to pop that potion ASAP. So this is when I finally realized I don't have it popped. I still can't believe that this is what my first run was like. I mean, I can believe it, but it's just like, I just like float up for no reason. I wasn't even dodging anything. I think I just did it because I've seen other people do it. Okay, so here, oh my. Okay, what happened there? So I come back into the boss, not realizing that they had called whites and rollings. Now it was a bit unfortunate that in my very first attempt and my very first encounter with these patterns that they both happened at the same time. However, you see how I have all of this empty space over here? I could have easily stayed over here, but instead I decided to jump over to the left. That's a recurring problem in this run, where I just keep defaulting to the left side of the boss when you're really supposed to be staying on the right side of the boss. So watch. Oh, sorry about the video stutter. Okay, so basically what happens here is that, okay, I pop this. So I walk over, and at this point I have Black Curse, right? And I'm not even thinking about the fact that I have Black Curse. And so of course I get hit by the white curse, or sorry, I get hit by the white ball, which because I have black curse, that's a death. And then I get hit by another white ball, which means that I have white curse again. And then I'm going into all of this stuff. Boom, I hit one of the rollings because I'm skill locked and like I couldn't flash jump, I couldn't, you know, use any of my skills to get out of there, and then I die to HP. So right off the bat, that's 2 lives lost, 1 curse death and 1 HP death. Great, good job. Really good so far. So I'm like, holy shit, what just happened? I was not ready for that at all. So at this point, I finally go and I'm like, I'm still checking my sound for whatever reason, but I finally adjust my opacity. So I'm staying dead for as long as possible, trying to regain my composure. It doesn't work. I'll just let you guys know that ahead of time. I'm just waiting out the FMA. Then I come right back. Boom. All right, let's try that again. So here, I'm kind of in a bad spot, but that's okay. I jump out, did that correctly. You'll notice that I'm like trying really hard to play around the cat eyes. That's another thing in Black Mage that's really important. It's like certain things you can just tank. Like just because there's this big scary looking ball floating in front of you doesn't mean that you have to avoid it at all costs. Because there are other things that actually will kill you really quickly that you do need to avoid at all costs. But if you're trying to avoid everything, chances are you're gonna get hit by something. And so like this way I'm playing right now, which is too afraid of these cat eyes, it's putting me in a bad position on the left side of the boss. Which is why I'm stuck over here, and then whites are coming, and then because I see spikes, I'm like, okay, this is fine. What I'm doing here is fine. But I just, yeah, so let's watch that again more slowly. So I get to a point where I'm here, right? And I think my thought process, and this is like, you know, this is a couple of weeks ago, so I don't exactly remember what my thought process was, but I think my thought process was that I didn't want to back all the way into the corner. I really should have here because the white right here will actually break on the wall. And so I actually would have had just like this entire column of space to, and like, you see how I have all of this space before these whites actually come down to, before having to deal with the rollings. Like I should have just utilized that, but instead I walk into them, and here I am currently black cursed. I try to feather flow. I think I try to dodge both patterns in one, and this way I can feather flow through the whites and then also over the rollings, but I actually got touched by the rolling before I feather floated through, and so that's another curse death, and I got HP death. So another 2 deaths right there. So I'm four lives down already. But I would say relatively unlucky for my first run because both times that I encountered whites and rollings for the first time, they were happening at the same time. And so instead of being able to dodge one pattern before dodging the other pattern in a very like obvious way, like I had to think on the spot and like try to dodge both patterns at the same time, which is obviously not something that I was ready for. So a bit unlucky, but that's also just Black Mage. You have to be ready for those kind of patterns. So this is where, so this is burst, and then this is where I realized Grandis Goddess Blessing is not there. And then so you see how I threw it down there really quick, but I actually put it on F6 because that was the key that I found in that moment of panic, but I usually actually have it on F5. So I'm pretty sure I like fuck up some bursts later on because it was not in the right key. So here I am, of course. So, yes, okay. So this is another situation where right here, I have all of this space to work with on the right side, right? Because this diagonal of whites is coming down, and I don't need to dodge the whites here. I can move over there, give myself more time, and then dodge the whites on that side of the boss and be a little bit more safe from the rollings, right? But instead, I dodge it right here because I'm afraid of the cat eyes. I'm afraid to get hit by these things because I just don't have this conception of like these things are perfectly okay to tank, right? And so I do my feather float thing through the whites here, and I successfully dodge the whites, but now I'm in a really bad spot because now I'm stuck on the left side of the boss, and still I'm afraid to jump to the right side. Here, like I should have jumped over to the right side because there is space over here where there aren't any spikes, but instead, because I see all three of these spikes over here, I default to going to the left again. And here I actually react a little bit too late, and I jump and I guard that, which was good, right? I did have to guard that. However, I get pelted by this rolling, and because I'm panicking and because I think, oh, if it's going at this diagonal, maybe I can jump over it. I try to jump and I end up getting hit by both instead of just one. You see how like, because I'm choosing the wrong options, I'm actually turning bad situations into worse situations. Like that's why it's really important to like listen to the pros and the experienced people and just like stay on the right side of the boss. So I get hit by both of those purples, and then immediately, of course, I'm white cursed and I get hit by a chain and I die. I lose a curse death. Yep. Great. And see, you see how right there, that's a perfect example. Right there, and we can watch this shit show again. Right here, I jump, guard, get hit by both of those, boom. Curse death. You see how right here, I'm like moving toward the right, and instead of continuing to go to the right, which is totally what I should be doing at this moment, I see this big ball, and you see how I walk right back into the left corner? Like, no, I should not be doing that. So now I'm kind of stuck here, and once again, I'm still stuck on the left side of the boss because I'm just afraid of these things that I shouldn't be afraid of. And meanwhile, it's almost been 3.5 minutes, and I've done a total of 1.8 T, which is even more pathetic than the phase 1 performance. All right, so this part, I think at this point I realize that I'm doing no damage, so I finally start to attack. It's left side FMA, and holy crap, so I barely survived that one. You can see that I'm like backing myself into the corner once again. At this point, all of them knew to stay in this little area right here, right? Because you want to be in the center in case it's left FMA, right FMA, or center FMA. And me not really paying attention to the thing that is most important in this moment, I'm just like over here on the right side, and they call left, and I have so much more horizontal distance to cover. Adele's horizontal mobility is not that good. And so like I put myself in a really bad spot here. What I did do that was good, however, was that I did pick the one horizontal option right here that would actually get me to the left corner, which was turn around, feather float, and then flash jump. And you see how I barely survived. Let's just go back and watch that again. They're all in the middle. Yep, FMA is coming. They see left FMA, they jump. I'm like, and I'm an entire flash jump distance behind they are. But I do make it because I was able to use that flash jump, the feather float flash jump tech, which is Adele's best option for getting all the way across the map quickly. So not bad on my part in terms of what I did to get out of a terrible situation. So there, I thought I had made it to the corner. I just didn't realize that I was not fully in the corner, and so I still got killed by that spike. Boom. All right, so at this point, I have lost 6 lives. Wonderful. See, once again, I'm afraid of the whites, and so I put myself on the left side of... What am I doing? All right, wait, okay. I didn't even realize how bad this was until I am watching it back now. So, once again, these whites are coming, right? And dude, this entire space, I should just be over here. I just wait for it to come down. I feather float through it. I'm perfectly safe. Instead, I'm like, oh, there's a chain here. There's a cat eye here. I can't go to the right, so I got to keep going to the left. And this entire wall of whites is just coming down on me. And then that also gives time for spikes to spawn Now I'm in this horrible position. I end up feather floating the wrong direction. It was actually the right direction for the place that I was in, considering where the spike placement, but it was the wrong. It was just all bad because I was on the left side in the first place. But I put myself here, which means I'm gonna get hit by some rollings. Boom. Once again, I get hit by the rolling. I get hit by, and then of course immediately after I get hit by the spike, and I lose another curse death. So here I'm just walking it out. Like, I think at this point I realized, I'm like, holy shit, I'm just dying every single time to the simple fact that I'm on the left side of the boss as opposed to the right side of the boss, which is what everyone told me to do before I started. So like, okay, let's actually do the right thing and just stay on the right side. So that's why you saw me walk all the way across the map over to the right side of the boss. All right. And then also remember, I don't have auto recovery too. So like this HP, I'm stuck with that HP. I do have healing fams on, but like, it's not good. Auto recovery 2 is so good in this boss. It's like pretty much a must run. Okay, this time I actually paid attention to FMA, so improvement from the previous one. It was a much simpler path to get there. Back into the boss. 5 minutes, I've done less than 4T damage. Really sad. So what I did here was actually pretty good. So I'm in darkness, right? And so I'm in darkness. And what's important is that even when you're in darkness, you can actually see if spikes are about to spawn under you, right? So here, I jump over and I see that there's spikes there. So I walk to the left because I'm like, okay, that space is not safe. And then once I did walk over to the left, I realized that the space over is also gonna be spiked very soon, right? And because I don't know where I can jump and what spacing is safe at this point, that's when I'm like, okay, I have to just guard this, right? So that's why I use Ether Guard, and I was able to guard that spike. So that was actually pretty good on my part. I didn't panic. I saw the spike was going to be under me, so I walked to the left to avoid it. I happened to walk into another area with spikes, which is just not something that I can avoid because it spawned after I went into darkness. But in that moment, I picked the right option and guarded it. So actually not bad in terms of what I did. As you see, those chains coming down, like I definitely would have gotten another curse death had I not done what I did. So once again, okay, see once again, whites had tons of space to go. You see how no one is on this side of the boss, right? Once again, it was just because I saw the cat eyes and I was like, I can't go in that direction. There's this big floating ball that's gonna kill me, right? But it's not. It barely does any of your damage. It barely does any of your HP in terms of its damage. And so like that's definitely something that every beginning black mage attempter needs to learn to deal with, which is the fact that some of these patterns are just very simple to dodge and you can just tank them, and that's what allows you to actually dodge the things that will actually kill you. So here I am stuck on the left side again, and of course I get hit by another ball. So I actually popped Will of Urda because I like realized that, oh yeah, like it's not just the fact that I'm getting hit by these patterns, it's the fact that I'm getting hit by the patterns and then not using any of my will skills, right? And then so here you'll see that I like get hit by the white, I get hit by the purple while I have black curse, so I lose the cursed life. I lose a life from cursed death. And then I'm basically reacting like just a little bit too slow. I'm like, I should have willed there. And so immediately I press my will right after. I die. And you see here, I press my will. I'm like, I should have willed earlier, and I kind of just pressed it. Obviously it was like 2 entire seconds late, but it was at least the moment in which I consciously recognized that that's something that I should be going for. And you know, better to like actually press the button and like remind yourself that it's there. It's there for you to use, and it's really useful in this particular boss, as opposed to just never even attempting to press it at all, right? So here we phase the boss. I did absolutely no damage. Yeah, I did a total of 5T. That's just like so pathetic. 5.5, almost 5.5 T in 6 minutes. It's really sad. But you know, it's my first run, it's fine. Everyone's really bad on their first run. Or I mean, maybe some people are really good, but not that I've seen. So I mainly wanted to get to phase 3 because the party I was eventually going to be running with had already started getting like a decent amount of phase 3 experience. And so I wanted to get into phase 3 and like learn to deal with kicks and stuff like that. So here I am, like really scared. I'm like, okay, dodge or duck. You see how I moved away from those blue lasers, and you see how I jumped? I jumped right after getting sucked in. I just got afraid of the fact that I got sucked into Black Mage, and I immediately responded by jumping, which is the worst thing you can do because you're gonna get kicked. Boom, I got kicked. And then so I remember what happened here. So here I have White Curse, right? I'm conscious of the fact that I have White Curse, but my wheels are on cooldown because I panic pressed them earlier when I didn't actually need to. And then I see this red ball appear above me, and I'm like, oh, that's like, I don't remember what that does, but that's gotta give me Black Curse, right? Like if I get hit by that, I'm gonna lose another curse death. Turns out that's not actually what it does. And so like you'll see me try to play around these red balls, but that only ends up getting me killed by other things. So you see, like I'm like, oh fuck, I'm scared. I flash jump out, I get kicked again, boom. There, I got hit by one of the lasers, and I got. What's going on? Oh my! Wait. Okay, so I lost the curse death right there. Boom! I see this, and you see the reason why like I was stuck in this shitty position is because I'm like trying to dodge, and so I flash jump. I flash jump away from that ball because I think it's gonna kill me, and then I get kicked immediately. Boom! Get kicked over here, and in the middle of this map in P3 is the worst spot you can be in, right? So I'm like, okay, must dodge lasers. I dodge those lasers, but then I still get clipped by one of them. So I lose another curse death. And then now I'm stuck in the middle, and rollings are coming because they always come around this time. And I'm like, okay, well, once again, I guess I just have to guard this. And you know, guarding it is fine, but I guard it and then I get kicked immediately. And now I get kicked into the rollings, and there's super lasers all around me. I take touch damage. I have White Curse. I get hit by a laser, and then I die, both a curse death and an HP death. So right off the bat, I'm already down to my very last life. I'm like, bro, what the fuck just happened? So here I am, just like, still freaking out. I just wait through an entire FMA pattern. And then as I come back, jump right into the right corner. Okay, actually did that the way you're supposed to. Oh, also did that the way you're supposed to. Yeah, so that was like pretty good, right? I mean, for my first run, I guess. So here, I position myself in a place while in between kicks, right? I position myself in a place where I don't have to deal with the first white ball, but I can deal with, you know, like the second one after the first one has hit the ground. And then I dodge, or I duck just in case Black Mage decides to kick, and then I feather float out at the last possible moment, and I was able to get around that. It's not the worst, not ideal, but not the worst. So I hear all of them saying that go to the left, and then for some reason I like go to the left, and I think that I don't realize that the reason why they're going to the left is like they're going to the left intentionally, right? For in my brain, I just like don't even I can't even comprehend what's going on because I'm panicking. So I just kind of go to the left and I just start hitting the boss again, and I'm stuck in the middle where all of these rollings are. Oh yeah, I remember what happened here. Okay, so basically, like I'm stuck here, right? And this is the really bad spot. I think was there a big plat on the left? There wasn't. So okay, so now rolling's come and they're chasing me. I jump up and I think, okay, this is the last possible spot I can jump up because if I get any closer to Black Mage, he can kick me and then I'm dead for sure, right? So I float up and then lasers cross on me, and I could have totally tanked these lasers because, you know, like 2 of these blue lasers is not going to kill you, but instead I feel the need to dodge them because I'm inexperienced, and then I plummet down because I thought that I could plummet down right here onto the ground, and then I would be in between these 2 rollings and I could jump back up immediately, right? But what I didn't realize is that this thing is actually a platform. And I land on the platform and I'm like, what the fuck just happened? Why am I on this platform? And immediately after, I just, I like panic, and then I end up jumping into Black Mage. And this part is so funny because I jump and I end up just realizing in this moment, I'm like, oh, I seriously fucked up. Like I should not be here. Why am I here? And so I try to feather flow out, but boom, it's already too late. I got hit by the rolling touch damage, and like even though I still feather floated out, my character was already dead. So that's it. That was my final death, and that was it. So pretty soon I die out, and I basically got a tiny bit of P3 experience. You know, I could say that I made it to P3, but you know, in no way was it due to that's pretty badass, this image. In no way was it due to my contributions, because I did no damage in P1, I did no damage in P2, and I definitely did no damage in P3. But you know, first run, running with a party much more experienced than I was, and also just like panicking from the very beginning because I wasn't prepared, right? If you recall, I didn't have my green pot, I didn't have my buffs keybound, I didn't have my opacity turned down, like all of this stuff. Like you got to go through the checklist, you got to make sure like all of that stuff is prepared ahead of time, and you got to get yourself like in a calm mental state before you go in, because if you're going to go into a boss that you're not familiar with, that's difficult, that you don't want to like grief because you have like this entire party that's also counting on you. The last thing you want to do is feel like you're already one step behind because you didn't do the right prep. So that was like big takeaway number 1. Big takeaway number 2 is like during P2, don't go to the left side of the boss, right? Like the left side is the reason why I died all of those times, multiple curse deaths into HP deaths, and those cascades of deaths were just because I was on the left side and put myself in the worst possible position to respond to patterns like whites, like rollings, and especially when those things coincided alongside spikes and of course chains and all of that stuff. Like that's really bad. Third takeaway, watch for FMAs in P2, right? There was that FMA where like I barely made it, and the reason why it was so tight was because I was farther off to the right than everybody else in my party. That was a big issue. Takeaway number 3, if I don't remember if I'm actually on number 3, but let's just say we are. Takeaway number 3 was that like I should be willing to tank certain things, like those cat eyes specifically. I just saw the cat eye and like I just saw that as like a solid wall that I should never cross, and so because of that I ended up going to the left instead of going through the cat eyes and over to the right where it was much safer, and that always put me in a bad spot. And so I would say that those were like the main things. And I guess takeaway number 4 is in P3, don't like jump around so much. I don't even really think of this run as like indicative of anything that I should or shouldn't be doing in P3, because it was just all so bad that it was just like, let's just work on P2 first, and then the next time in P3 you can actually have some lives to work with to actually try to apply some of the things that you're supposed to do. So yeah, that was my first Black Mage run. you know, shout outs again to that party for taking me. And I learned a lot from this run, especially in terms of preparation, in terms of like the mentality of running the boss and things like that. So that's it for this time. I will be back with run number 2. And hopefully seeing how poorly I played it, seeing how quickly I died to these patterns, seeing how panicked I was, how little damage I did, like all of these things. Hopefully that's encouraging to someone who's just starting out, because I will tell you, like, I cleared the boss already. And this first run took place less than 3 weeks ago. So, you know, within that amount of time, and I think in a total of 8 or 9 runs, I'll see the final number once I actually upload all of these videos one by one. I don't remember if it was run number 8 or run number 9 that I finally cleared Black Mage. But, you know, if your first run looks like that, you're still on pace to clear sub 10 runs. So I hopefully that is encouraging instead of discouraging, because I know this boss can be challenging. It certainly was for me at first. And I mean, it still is, right? It's a hard boss. So, you know, give yourself that slack, and hopefully by watching this, you can feel more confidence. You can recognize that everybody's going through the same thing at first, and maybe some of the analysis that I did will help you out as well. So that's it for this time. If you are keen to continue watching the series of every single run in which I make progress and learn the boss and eventually clear, make sure to subscribe to the channel and stay tuned for the next one. See you guys next time.